Watch out and back.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
No, you're good.
No. Thank you.
We saved it for you. We saved that for you, Linda.
Oh, thank you. No, I think I'll take the end though.
And give her a seat. I'm not here to take up your time, but I am here to make a few announcements. One of those announcements is the CB Messenger newspaper. We are endeavoring to come out 4 times a month. If you notice at the last delegate assembly, Olga read our ad for help wanted. Those of you who got our current issue, look in the back page, you'll see our benefits. We welcome all volunteers, and I may mention since we started, we have gotten information that many people are willing to help us. And that is you, if they help us. I'm going to make just 1 or 2 brief announcements. We report on a timely basis. This is the start of the next issue. And in this issue, we are going to discuss the use of hidden cameras and recordings until we brought it to light and its illegality. So therefore, I am making this announcement. We are taping and recording you. We don't hide it. You will be on Facebook and other social media. That's what we're here for. If there is anybody objecting, this is a public meeting, we want you to stay, but we will not say that you will not be in the photograph. Look good, ladies, when you come next time. Have your hair done. We'll take private pictures on the side. I didn't notify you that before, but there's a few beauty parlors that will do you for half price if you mention my name. I want to just briefly announce that those of you who were at the last delegate meeting saw the nonsense that went on when Olga tried to read our help wanted ad. In the name, copying a phrase from a deceased rabbi who said, "Never again. We will not let that happen again. We need help, but we will not let the silencing be done. We will not tolerate being photographed and recorded, which is a federal offense, without being notified. The day after I brought it to everybody's attention, the signs went on. Where else are there cameras? Who's in charge? Who permitted it? These questions must be answered, and I'm drafting your letter to the CEO of the current company that does our security. We want clear answers. And in the next issue, we have what happened and what's going on. One other quick mention, 2. 1, we endeavored to put out many of our newspapers on door handles in plastic bags. In several instances, we were immediately informed that an individual went throughout the building and removed. We are checking to see if once we put it on a door handle, is it allowable to take someone else's property. It's like someone taking a newsday off the door. So we're in the process of doing that. Furthermore, we're endeavoring to start mailing newspapers to individuals, and those of you who get the messenger, there's a phone number on the back in it. That is the messenger's own phone number. You could email us. If you look in the newspaper, there's our email, which is Justice for Residents. There's a special phone, which is now carried by me, but I take a volunteer with a nice voice to answer it. We encourage everybody. I've gotten many calls about incidents that would have not gotten reported. We ask everybody, if something of newsworthy happens, call us. We won't just print it, we won't take anonymous calls, but we will verify it. Since this happened, there was another major incident at the Broadband Committee, where a gentleman who's been a big supporter got into an argument with David Israel, and he said, I won't let you talk to me. Another man, another person on the don't listen to list. Having said all that, again I welcome you, wish you good health, and I'm now going to turn the microphone over to the man you really came to see, although I don't know who's better looking, Jesse Santamaria. Oh, yes. John Carey. And I may add that John Carey performs a terrific function. He's here to protect us, and we need oversight. There are movements not to fund this job. In today's Palm Beach Post, any of you got it?
Yesterday.
This morning. Yours. We have an article of one individual stealing $110 million of public funds. One doctor in Palm Beach County. What kind of oversight is it that this one individual could take so much money from Medicare and other people go wanting for their drugs, and everybody says, it costs too much money. It costs too much money for the failure of oversight by government. And we need oversight. And so does Century Village. And we will start a movement to have oversight. And those who want to disagree with us, they may, but they can't stop us. And you're not to take anything off the doors. Anybody we see doing it, we will make a public announcement. If you see somebody doing it, call us. Having said that, Mr. Santamaria again.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to be, of course, speaking on another topic that you're interested in. But before I speak, I'm going to introduce John Carey, our Inspector General. I need to start his introduction by saying when I first ran in 2006, the reason I ran in 2006 is because I was ashamed of a title that Time magazine gave Palm Beach County. Time magazine gave us the title of Corruption County. And I felt I was going to see what I could do about that title. And I only had intended to run for one term of 4 years. And towards the end of my first term, that was in 2010, I was happy that we had agreed to establish the Office of Inspector General to help clean up government. But as I was nearing the end of my term, I noticed a strong undertones, strong opposition to create obstacles for the Office of Inspector General. And so, towards the end of my term, at the last minute, I decided I couldn't leave yet. And so I ran for a second term in 2010 because I felt it was critically important for all of us who live in Palm Beach County that we had to have an Office of Inspector General to get rid of the title Corruption County. And so I stayed on, as you all know, of course, for another 4 years. Which ended in 2014, last November. So we're almost finally getting rid of some of the obstacles, but there still remain some obstacles. And of course, John, I am really excited after we found out that John Carey was going to take over because he is experienced, by the way, in the field of Inspector General in other areas. And of course, he'll explain that to you as well. But until, keep this in mind, until we have 100% independence by the Office of Inspector General, and until they are 100% funded, fully funded, we are not going to be solving the problem of Corruption County. So I'm encouraged by the turnout this morning. I actually bought copies of the Palm Beach Post full-page ad I put out yesterday, which some of you may have read, yesterday's Palm Beach Post. I only brought 50 copies. I didn't expect, I don't know, 100 people here today. So, we were able to run a couple of hundred more copies for you to pass on. But what encourages me is there's the amount of enthusiasm I felt just walking in here this morning. The enthusiasm of you. It reminded me of my high school teacher when I was in high school, who said, "Evil succeeds when good men and good women do nothing." And I feel invigorated and encouraged to see you here tonight, because with you here this morning, I know that you're good men and good women here who are going to be part of the solution and solve our problem in Palm Beach County. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce John Carey.
That was great. Can everybody see me in the back, or do I need to stand up on the... Okay, I'll stand up here. Yeah, again, I'm sorry if some of you came. I think why a lot of folks came, they were expecting maybe the other John Carey, the Secretary of State. Oh, okay, good. Again, thank you all for coming and inviting me here to speak today. Again, just a little about my background. I've been in government for 38 years, so I've been one of kind of those folks. But I've been in public service. I was a policeman back in Indiana for 10 years. Worked up the ranks, led the SWAT team and the Uniform Division Commander. Spent 30 years in the Marine Corps, retired Marine. Into federal civil service, and I've been in the Inspector General world. I was the Deputy Inspector General for the Marine Corps. Then when they stood up the Office of National Intelligence, I was the Deputy Inspector General there. And for the last number of years, I was the Inspector General at the Defense Intelligence Agency before I came down here. So one question I often am asked when I came here last June. I'm the second Inspector General here. They said, "Hey, do you know what you're getting involved in Palm Beach County? Have you read what's been going on down there?" And I said, yes. Number one, through our professional association, we keep up on other Inspector Generals around the nation of history and things of what's going on. But even more importantly, I come down here every year. I've been coming down here for years to vacation during the holiday times, during the winter holiday times. So Now I say I live on vacation, so I've been coming down for years, and I love Palm Beach County. And so, but one, am I ready for it? I tell folks, yes, I knew what was going on. Number two, are you ready for these battles? I said, well, I've been in Washington, D.C. for years fighting political battles, so I'm familiar with that. I'm a Marine, I've been off to war, I've fought real battles, so yeah, I think I can handle this down here. I'm ready for it. So what we do, what my office does, is we provide transparency, we promote integrity and accountability in government. That's why we're designed. We're designed to be an independent office that I do not report to the Board of Commissioners. I don't report to any city commissioners. I report to the public. I report to the citizens of Palm Beach County. And again, it's a great job. I say I have the greatest job in that regard. I can't be fired by a political group or by a head of any, whether it's the county or any of the cities, if I produce a report they don't like. I can only be fired if I violate criminal law or the code of ethics, which is reasonable. So I have the independence to do audits and inspections and contract oversight, to go where I need to shine a light on government and to speak the truth. So we do that in three areas: oversight, insight, and foresight. Oversight, we're responsible. We provide oversight of not only the county government, but all the 38 municipalities and a couple other agencies, to make sure that we are accountable to the taxpayers for the dollars that we give government to use. And so we do that through our audits, that we make sure we go in and we do audits of their operations and how they're spending their money on accountability, to make sure that they're spending it according to law and according to the way the taxpayers expect it to be done. We do investigations. We take allegations from, allegations can come from citizens in the county or out of the county. I get allegations from people in government at all levels. I've received allegations from city managers and from county council members, anonymously often. They can either give them to me in person, putting their name, or be anonymous. Because a lot of people are afraid of the repercussions of pointing out wrongdoing. A lot of times if you're a business person trying to do business with the county, I'm afraid if I put my name out there, well, that ends my business. No more business, so they can give allegations to us anonymously. In government, they may be afraid I might lose my job if I give an allegation in my name, so we protect that. And then from a political aspect, sometimes city council members and county council members bring allegation to me to look at things, because for political reasons, they may not want people to know the IG that they presented some information to the IG. So there's all types of reasons why we take complaints. And the only thing we ask is, it cannot be, I often get complaints from citizens that, for example, the county council or the city council, they're a bunch of corrupt folks, and you need to investigate it because they voted on, let's say, some things in the paper right now, land deals or things like that. Well, I have to ask the question, okay, on what basis? I got to have some evidence. Give me something to work with. It has to be something like, well, I saw them meeting at McDonald's and somebody passing money, or I've got information where there's been money passed or documents passed, some evidence. It can't be on the fact that they disagree with me. Often people will, well, why do you think they're corrupt? Well, everybody knows. I tell folks I can't do anything with everybody knows. I can do things with one person who has evidence, and that's what we really need. So if anybody ever has evidence, a piece, not just suspicion, we got to work with something there to find corruption in government. And so that's what we ask all of our folks. Now, our auditors are also trained. While we're doing these audits, they're specially trained not only to make sure we're accountable for our money, but they're also trained specially to look for signs of fraud, waste, and abuse. And a number of times, the auditors turn over to my investigators things to investigate. An example of that would be recently we did an audit of Riviera Beach. And the auditors were doing the audit to make sure we were spending money properly. And they found some irregularities of one of the city officials in the way they were using their car, a public car, and they turned it over to the investigators to look into. And what they found, we had one of the city officials had a government-issued vehicle, and it did need some work to be prepared on it, so he went out and rented a separate vehicle. Well, he liked the rented vehicles better than the government vehicle that he had, so when it came back for a number of months, he had 4 different vehicles that were rented, you know, everything from, you know, SUVs to nice looking cars on the city of Rio Beach's dimes, and instead of using his car that was parked, his city issue car, which was parked in his parking space in front of the building. So we investigate things like that and turn that back over to make sure action's taken. Now we also do insight, and it's more than just making sure government's accountable, which is critical. But what we do in the insight world is, I say, we come along good people and make things better, make government better. And that's what we do in our audits and in our contract oversight. We also do accountability, but we're like business consultants, and we look at the operations and we give recommendations. How can we be more efficient? You may be being legal in what we're doing, but is it the most efficient use of government money? I'm sorry, simplified rate. Anyway, so we want to make sure that we're using our money efficiently, the best way. And we have determined millions of dollars since we've come into business, how to use our taxpayers' dollars, just not only to be compliant, but to be more efficient and save taxpayers' dollars right now and projecting out in the future to saving money. And so that's what they do. And so we do that, and then we do contract oversight, and we try to look proactively ahead of the problem. So we don't wait until bad things happen and investigate. We try to go out proactively in our contract oversight and procurement section, and we work with the county and the cities as they're doing procurement activities, and we give recommendations, we give best practices, and sometimes I say it's just like the policeman on the interstate. Like I use the example, when I drive down 95 every day to work, if I see a policeman on a traffic stop, you know what I do. Everybody knows what I do. The first thing, you look down at your speedometer and make sure if I'm going over, I slow down. And so a lot of times, just by us being out there and being around, we're preventative, and we're around. And if that policeman is out there every day making stops when I'm driving to work, my habits change. So I'm going to just normally, and so by us being around, we not only immediately stop it, by us continually getting around the county and all the operations, we proactively help change a culture to be more, not just compliant, but to promote ethics in government and to promote just doing the right thing. So we promote doing the right things in government, doing the best things in government. So that's what we've done. Since the office has been in existence, we've identified over $22 million in either questionable cost, which there's 3 categories: questionable cost, identified cost, and avoidable cost. Most of it is in questionable cost, where it's not necessarily fraudulently used, but the government is not keeping track of the taxpayers' money the way they should be. And an example of that would be, we recently did an audit again of a city who was not tracking gas being put into the city cars. And so, I mean, with no tracking, in some of the little that we could find, for example, somebody was filling up a car that only has a capacity of 15-gallon tank, and yet 30 gallons went there. I'm not saying that's theft. That could have been another car pulled up afterwards and just, hey, kept it up. There's a lot of things like that. Again, I can't prove, because sometimes you can't prove, but the bottom line, there was not enough controls in place that I can't guarantee the public that our taxpayers' dollars are being accounted for. I don't know if it's being stolen or not. So we recommend controls be put in place that they do that. Again, another one example, the same city bought a bunch of tickets for the youth to go down and watch the Miami Dolphins play football. Oh, that's good. Okay, the citizens voted for it. And these are expensive tickets, you know, $50 to $100 tickets. Well, there was a number of those tickets that weren't accounted for. Again, I don't know what happened to the tickets. We could not prove they were stolen or scalped or given to some out as gratis to other friends. But the bottom line, you could not account for. We know the children that you gave tickets to, and we know some adults, but what happened to all these other tickets? Well, you know, we think they weren't used, they were thrown. We got to account for things like this, because this is taxpayers' dollars. This is our dollars. And I'm fervent. I love what I do. The vast majority in government are just like people in business. There are people like in education, and there are people like in the religious establishments. These are great people trying to do the right thing. And so a lot of our job is helping good people make government better. And I love that. But I also like, what I do also is to root out fraud, waste, and abuse. Because there is that small section. Again, yes, it is in government. It's there, it has been there, it's there today. But I want to say it's the same as in business, in education, in all fields. There are bad people around here. And I'm fervent also to find them. And we've got folks ready to find them. But I do want to assure you, again, all of my experience, what I've seen is you've got some great people in government. You know, like former Commissioner Santamaria. Great folks in government trying to do the best they can. And with those, we just help them do government better. And I say it's like everybody remembers at this age, I Love Lucy. Remember with her the time when her and Ethel went to the candy factory for the job? I love that one. Where they start out, you know, wrapping the candy, and all of a sudden the machine starts speeding up, and now they're doing it. Lucy's eating it, she's putting it down her dress and putting it in her hat. And what I say is, a lot of times that's the way government is. Lucy and Ethel weren't bad people. I don't think they were. The government folks aren't bad people. It's that they're trying to do a good job, and sometimes the machine, you know, they need somebody like an IG who could step back and look at the organization and say, hey, wait a minute. We need to slow the machine up, or we need to help you with some techniques to do better so we're not wasting candy, in our case, wasting government money. So that's what we do with a lot of the folks. We help government do better. Okay, I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to open it for anybody who wants. Oops, excuse me, sir.
No, I
yes.
just want to make an announcement, okay? You all have been put to the, am I on?
Yeah.
You've all been put to the test. We requested that we're not leaving because of no air conditioning. So we should have air conditioning soon.
Thank you.
And I'm trying not to add any hot air.
Excuse me? Well, keep cool, it'll take a while. And I want to make one comment, and Mr. Carey, who I think has done a better job than our other John Carey.
That mic's not working.
You have to take some questions?
I am.
Okay, the floor is going to be open to questions. We don't want to get overwhelmed. I'll leave it to Mr. Carey to do the pointing. It's his stage.
Okay, how about, since we don't have microphones,
We
you
can
just
pass
say
it
it,
around.
and if you say it and I can hear it, I'll repeat the question up here too, if the mic doesn't work.
All right, I'm going to pass it around.
Because I don't think that one is working.
It's not working. It's not able to pass it around.
Okay, this gentleman here had his hand up first. Yes, sir.
Hello?
Where is the borderline between your job and the police? Because most of the things you're saying is actually criminal in a way. So
Yes.
when is the police stepping up if? So what is the borderline?
Okay, thank you, sir. That's a good question. What the question was, what's the difference between my office and the police? The difference is the police is generally for the whole public and they do have some look at public corruption. But an Office of Inspector General, I am entirely focused on the government, not on enforcing citizens. You know, if somebody says I was robbed or speeding and violent, you know, with public, those type of laws, my focus is entirely upon government. Making sure people in government, in the county government, and in all the 38 municipalities, that they are following, one, accountable, following the laws, and then two, making sure they're using our money efficiently. And particularly like law enforcement does not have auditors. We audit these programs to make sure that they're using our money accountable and using it in a most efficient manner. And we look for signs of fraud, waste, and abuse. And once we find, if it comes to the point of being prosecuted, then we turn it over and we work with the state. We work very closely with the state's attorney office. And so we work with them with the public corruption unit to make sure that it goes to prosecution with them. So did that answer your question? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I think you had it. Yes, sir.
Yes, can you announce, excuse me, can you announce who you are when you speak, please?
Yes, my name is Leon Sanchez, Chatham H. Can you tell us the number of personnel in your office and your annual funding?
Yes, sir. The question was how many people do I have in the office and what's our funding? Let me back up a little bit. The way the county ordinance was written and the office stood up in 2010, we're supposed to have 40 people in the office. But the cities, shortly after, we had 15 of the cities, and now they're down to, became 14, and now they're down to 13, sued the county about how to pay for it. And in the process of while we're waiting for this whole lawsuit to go through the process, it's been heard, they asked for a rehearing, the judge denied it, and now the cities say they're going to appeal, and so we have to wait for the appeal. So in that process, we are at 23 people to do 23 people to look at, you know, multi-billions of dollars of money for the county. So we have 23 people to do that. And that costs the taxpayer, or that costs the citizens of Palm Beach County, our budget's about $2.8 million a year, which translates into $1.71 per citizen. So less than a cup of Starbucks coffee, usually, is what we cost them. But I want to say that does not include the money that we find to recoup for the government. So that's just, if we didn't find any money at all, it's $1.71. And I'm sure Jess will talk about this is his key to talk about some other issues. But let me say this, I was a federal IG for a number of years before I came here. The federal IGs are the one who found, who work with things like this federal Medicaid fraud. For every dollar that's spent on a federal inspector general, they return $17 for every dollar that's paid for them. So give us time here, you know, as we build our time. We're a money-making organization, you know, we're just not out making sure compliance. We look for your dollars to bring them back to be spent more wisely. And so that's what IGs do. They, you know, yeah, it costs some in the funds, but they find more, and we will in the long run. We're not there yet because we're a new office, but so far we found quite a bit more, and you're going to see in the next few weeks just a commercial. Look for a couple reports coming out probably in the next few weeks, which is going to show some millions of dollars that we have saved some of the cities down in the mid-southern part of the county here. Yes, sir. Did you?
Is this working?
No.
At this point, I have to interrupt because this is really the thing. This is really the main issue. Those of you who read and those of you who got a copy of my full-page ad in the Palm Beach Post yesterday. My ad says the deception continues. The deception continues. Let me explain why. Inspector Carey has stated that it costs you $1 and what?
71 cents.
See, that's also wrong. That is wrong. Let me tell you why. It should not cost any taxpayer 1 penny. And it says so in my ad. It should not cost any taxpayer 1 single penny. That's the deception. Why? Let me tell you why. That's why I had to interrupt. That's why I had to interrupt, because that's really the deception that these certain elected officials are trying to tell you, and the public is probably confused or misunderstanding the whole issue. The whole issue is the grand jury that investigated corruption in Palm Beach County. By the way, I testified to the grand jury. And I'm proud to say that the 21 grand jurors at the end of my 2.5-hour testimony gave me a standing ovation. The grand jury recommended, it's all in black and white, it's all in writing, they recommended that number 1, yes, we are still corruption county. That was in 2009. Number 1, yes, we are corruption county. And yes, we have to do something about it. And that something is hiring an inspector general to oversee government. It also said, fund their office with vendor fees. Vendor fees means that everybody who does business with the government, they usually make 100, 200, 300% profit. I mean, that's why we're corruption county, because our government, from the lowest levels of government to the county, have been overpaying for their services of the special interests. In other words, people who do business with the government have huge amounts of profit. But the grand jury said, follow Miami-Dade and charge 1/4 of 1% vendor fee. So everybody who does business with the government, everybody, if you're selling trucks, you're selling computers, or you're building a building for the government, you're supposed to charge the vendor who wins the bid 1/4 of a percent. 1/4 of a percent is peanuts. It's minuscule. For every $100,000 contract, for every 100,000, it's $250. 250, it's nothing. You know, when your profit is hundreds of percentage over the cost, 1/4 of a percent is nothing. That's what Miami-Dade has been doing for the last 15 years now. At that time, they were doing it for the last 11 or 12 years. So it's successful in Miami-Dade. They collect from the vendor to fund his office. You're not supposed to pay 1 penny. 0, zip. So it was recommended to the county commissioners. We, the county commissioners, discussed it. Many of you showed up at our meetings and gave your opinion. 99.9% of the people who showed up supported the recommendation. And all of the commissioners, this is one of the few times that 100% of the commissioners voted, following the pressure of the public, voted to, number 1, approve the office of Inspector General, and number 2, the most important thing, funded by vendor fees. Vendor fees. 1/4 of 1%. Tiny little percentage to fund them, to fund their. No one ever mentioned to use your money. It was not brought up. It was not brought up because the people told us, charge the vendors, follow the recommendation of the grand jury, and the vote was unanimous, 7-0. Charge the 1/4% vendor fee. So we voted for it. Then after that, the commissioner said, let's include the 38 cities, not just the county. So you voted. in November of 2010, that was when I ran for my second term, you voted, number one, to have the Inspector General include West Palm Beach, Wellington, Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, Palm, all 38 cities to be included under the supervision, oversight of the Inspector General. Again, all 38 cities, every single city, from Belle Glade to West Palm Beach to Palm Beach Gardens, over 72% of the voters voted to get the Office of Inspector General. So again, it was unanimous. All 38 cities were under the Inspector General. And all of the discussions were charge the 1/4% vendor fee. But somehow somebody forgot to put it in the referendum statement. They forgot. Intentional or unintentional. Somebody did not put it. Should have been there because that was always the discussion. Vendor fee, and that's when you leave this room today, that's what you've got to pass on to everybody you meet. It's not a tax to fund them. It's a vendor fee. The vendors, the people who make zillions of dollars of profit, are supposed to contribute to his office. So the grand jury recommended it. All commissioners agreed to it. The public voted on it. So and why on earth are these 15 cities refusing to contribute to the Office of Inspector General, deceiving you, saying we can't afford it. They don't want to charge the taxer, the taxpayer. See, that's the deception I have on my full page ad. They are deceiving you. So that's what you gotta educate your neighbors, your friends. It's not a tax. It's supposed to be a vendor fee. And the judge in the lawsuit last month confirmed it. The judge said yes. Yes, all of the cities have to participate, and you could charge the vendor fee. You can charge the vendor fee. That's what the judge said. So that's why I have no problem putting a full-page ad with the headline, "The deception continues." They're still refusing to participate in funding the Office of Inspector General. That's why I had to really bring this up at this point in time, because that's the deception. It doesn't. The $1.71 is out. Zero. It should be zero. It's supposed to be charged to the vendors.
Yeah, so to qualify right now, that's what it's costing, because nobody is charging. And the way the ordinance came out, it did not require them to, they just said they could charge vendors. So it changed from what the original intent was to they could. So right now, nobody is charging vendor fees, and our base funding is coming from taxes, which translates into $1.71 per citizen of the county. I've been asked, because it's hot and I think they have other things going on, that unfortunately we don't have time for public questions. Is that right?
We'll do it afterwards.
Okay, so afterwards, if anybody, I am here as long as you want me to be here to talk, to answer any questions. But because it's hot, because it's timing, if anybody, wants to go, I'll be down here and we can, I'll ask you to answer any questions and talk anything about what we want to. So thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you know this big man, and you've been waiting to hear from him.
Still working? Okay, I guess the other important topic of today is the golf course.
Yes.
guess the reason I'm standing here before you is because I have experience in golf courses. I have experience both in golf courses and I have experience in lawsuits regarding golf courses. I guess you might say I'm a queer duck in the sense that here I am a developer. I am a developer, and sometimes I'm being accused of being anti-development. I was a successful developer, so modesty aside, I was the best developer builder in the Wellington Royal Palm Beach area. In the 80s and the 90s, nobody could compete with me. That included the big builders, the General Developments, the Mintos, Lennar, all of the. We were #1 for 20 years in the Wellington Royal Palm Beach area. In the 80s and the 90s, we built about 3,000 homes and about 50 commercial buildings. And we always had community support. All of the projects that I was involved in, the community was with me. And I lived within the community that I built. And I was not afraid to live where I built. They said, Jesse, you must be nuts. How can you have your home right there in the middle of your developments? They're going to be knocking on your doors on complaints. I said, no, I want to be with the people I built for. And I still live there since the 70s. So I've been there some 40 years. I'm proud to live where I built. And nobody's knocking on my door. Golf courses. I built on golf courses. The thing to remember, those of you who came to Century Village and lived either on the golf course or in the vicinity of a golf course, you paid a higher price. When I built a house on the golf course, I had to buy land. The land surrounding the golf course was more expensive. It was more expensive. So I paid 20–30% more. And when I built on the golf course, I had to charge 20 and 30% more. Not only on the land, but I also made money on the homes. So I have to admit that. So I expect that those of you who purchase condominiums in the vicinity of the golf courses, also, especially the original ones, you paid a higher price compared to somebody who was 10 blocks away. So those who were outside the distance, because it's a premium to look out your patio or your window and look at open space. Your open space. You don't want to see a lot of rooftops. You don't want these stores across from your home. So you pay extra to have the open space. So that's the real issue here. Those who buy in the vicinity of a golf course have paid more. That's universal, everywhere. Everywhere you pay more. And if you have something that you paid more, if somebody takes it away from you, you have to be reimbursed. That's the way the system works. Like eminent domain, when a street is being widened and they take some land away from a property owner, the government compensates for taking of the land. In this particular case, if somebody were to take the golf course away, at the very least you have to be compensated. But not only do you have to be compensated, you have to agree. All of you have to agree. For example, I built a 21 unit townhouse project with a pool. And after a while, the pool cost a lot of money. And some of the owners around the pool, who were in that 21 unit townhouse project, said, let's get rid of the pool, just fill it in and put some benches for picnics and a little rest area. And our lawyer said you can't. You gotta have 100% approval. Out of the 21 townhouses, we had like 18 who wanted the pool removed. And the lawyer said you can't. You can't, you gotta get all 21. The same thing should apply to a case like the golf course, where a lot of you pay more money for the golf course, and if some want to remove it and some don't, you can't remove the golf course. That's before I go into your golf course, I'll give you my experience in 2 other golf courses. I built around a golf course that's currently known as Madison Green. Thank you. Madison Green Golf Course in Royal Palm Beach. So the Madison Golf Course, I built next door to it. But the golf course was not built. They were advertising. They built about 40 homes out of the couple of thousand, 3,000. They turned over the property to the New York Bank. The New York Bank then approached me to take over the property. I couldn't afford the whole development, so I offered to buy half of it. So I bought half of it, not counting where the golf course was. The golf course was not yet built. Another developer, another very large developer, took over the other half. He wanted to remove the golf course and build more homes. And I told the other developer, you can't, because we promised the people that it's going to be a golf course. So the difference here, the golf course was not even built. And it certainly did not have the word perpetuity. It wasn't even built, and that's why you have to think about this. It wasn't built, and it didn't have perpetuity. And yet, he insisted that he wanted to do away with the golf course, and got, at that time, the mayor was Tony Masalotti. You've heard of Tony Masalotti, right? One of the 3 commissioners who went to jail. He was the mayor of Royal Palm Beach, and he was able to convince his fellow city councilmen to vote to remove the golf course, to not build it. So here you have the city government saying, take it out, put more homes, and it wasn't even built. So the community said there was supposed to be a golf course. We want the golf course because we're buying property. It wasn't even immediately on the golf course. It was away from the golf course. But we still felt we had the right to sue. So we did. So we sued the Royal Palm Beach government to insist that the golf course be built, which wasn't even built and did not have perpetuity. So when I see you're comparing it to your own golf course, you have the golf course in place. You already have people who bought into the golf course community. You already have in your documents clearly say your deed in that area clearly says the area shown as tract 36 hereon is hereby restricted in perpetuity for golf course purposes. This to me is 10 times better than what we had in Royal Palm. 10 times better. You have it on your deed. Shall remain for golf course purposes forever and ever and ever and ever. It doesn't say subject to 4 commissioners in the future. The vote was 4-3. I was one of the 3. I was one of the 3. 4-3. It was pretty close.
Yes, it was.
So, and I of course brought my latest Webster dictionary, and I opened it and I read. I didn't see any 4 commissioners being able to remove perpetuity from anything, and yet here you are showing up in full force and being completely ignored by your elected officials. public servants. Your elected officials have to be reminded again and again and again that they are there to serve you, the public. You put them in office. They have a fiduciary responsibility to follow your dictates. They're supposed to follow you, not special interests. That's the problem we're having. That's the problem we're having now in Palm Beach County and cities, not just the county. That we are not. If you read also my full page ad, the most important part of my full page ad is the last paragraph. Those of you who are holding it there, the last paragraph is really the most important one, because this is the one that's going to sell not just the golf course issue. This is what's going to solve all of the corruption issues. And that last paragraph says, when we vote for public officials, an agent-principal relationship is created with those public officials. We, the people, employ public servants to act on our behalf and expect them to act in the people's best interest. Public officials are subject to a fiduciary responsibility and accountability to we the people. That's what's missing with our government today. Our government is not following the democratic system. When the people elect them, they're supposed to serve you. They're ignored. You're being ignored. A lot of people ask me, Jess, you want to say, why did you run for office? That's a tough job. That's a tough job. If politics is dirty and you don't need it. I said, no, I don't need it, but I think the people need somebody like me, yes, who's going to represent them. And when I sent out after I got elected, I said I don't even like the name commissioner. I said yesterday. I said on my victory speech, the night I was declared the winner. I said yesterday you used to call me Jess. My name hasn't changed. I'm still Jess, and that's the name I'd like you to call me. But more important, under my name, I like the title public servant. See, and in a way, I have to blame some of you. I really have to, because what happens is, why? I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you right now why. I have to blame some of you. I have to blame some of you because after these candidates run for office, they come begging for your vote, right? They come here and grand speeches, vote for me, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. After you elect them, you have photo ops. You want to take a picture with them. When they come to you, you put them to sit in the head of the table. No, they don't have to sit in the head of the table. We actually elevate them. There's no reason to elevate a public servant. Public servants should be one of us. You should treat them like a brother or a sister. We don't have to give them all that special treatment. They feel like royalty because of the public giving them special treatment. They feel important. Then you have these presidents of banks and presidents of developments, big corporations, and they come to them. Oh, they feel, oh my God, I'm very important now. Very important. So they feel like royalty. And sometimes, as you know what happened to Palm Beach, the chairman felt chairman was not high enough. They decided let's call them county mayor and the mayor. So they like even a higher title because the background there. I'm probably getting off topic. Some people felt that when Obama came into town, at that time the chairman of the commission was not given enough attention. So if that person had been given mayor of the county, they felt more important. So the following year, the next commissioner was given the name mayor of the county. So titles and those things are just very important to our government officials. Back to the golf course. The one in Royal Palm Beach, we sued the government, and 1 week before the trial, the developer came to us and said, we give up, we are going to build the golf course, and we're going to reimburse your legal fees. So I got back my legal fees, and all those who contributed to my legal fund, and the golf course is built. It's a beautiful golf course. The second, so that's one example I have that we won the lawsuit. And secondly, the other one is the one in Royal Palm Beach on Royal Palm Boulevard. That one, many developers came wanting to build homes on the golf course. But I, together with others, opposed it from the beginning. It never got to first base. And eventually, the city built a beautiful park. It's now the Commons Park. You should go to Royal Palm Beach and look at it. It's a beautiful park. So if for some reason it doesn't work as a golf course, at the very least, it should be a park. And the county, it should be a park. And the county should subsidize it. That's a good investment. Subsidize it and make it a beautiful park for the open space.
Hold the questions, please.
Yeah. So I guess the message I'm bringing here this morning is our public servants should serve you, and you've got to demand that you deserve to either have a golf course or at the very least it should be made into a beautiful park. So those are the perpetuity is a win. To me, it's still a strong argument. It's a strong argument. It's a winnable argument. Forever means forever, and you got to stay strong. You got to stay firm and fight for your rights.
Yeah. No questions yet, please. Not yet. Let him finish.
Well, I'm just about ready to wind up, and so yeah, I'm ready to take questions.
Let me just make an announcement. We'll take questions. Let's not be redundant. Jess is going to take questions, and so is the Inspector General, and I invite him to come here to Century Village to do an inspection.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Okay, well, we'll start from the man in the back there.
Now I got a mic that works. Hold on. Please identify yourself. Name?
My name is Connie Kurtz. I'm at 94 Somerset E, a resident here of Century Village for the past 12 years. Jess, I need to ask the question on behalf of myself, who we are not around the golf course, but we are supporters of those that are connected to the golf course. We've heard their plea for the past few years, and we understand where they're coming from. But we also hear, you see, you say we the people have the right. I'm totally in favor of that. The fact is there is a split with we the people here at Century Village. Are you saying that the language perpetuity is the bottom line issue, no matter how split this community is, that language should make the difference for those who want to have at least a park area if not the golf course itself?
In my non-legal opinion, perpetuity is a very clear word. And I gave you an example of the swimming pool, a much smaller development with 21 townhouses. And my lawyer said that the pool had to stay, even if 18 out of the 21 wanted to remove the pool had to stay. And that was not even in the association document. It wasn't even in the documents. But it was just normal expectation that everybody who bought into that development saw the pool was there, and the pool had to stay until 21 units agreed to remove it. So with respect to the golf course, with the word perpetuity is, to me, 10 times stronger that you have the right whoever is for the golf course has every right to keep it as a golf course, unless you agree, unless there's some other document that allows you to change it. But I don't see any other document.
Excuse me for just interjecting, because this lady brought up a very good point. I don't live on the golf course, but that is an amenity for the entire village, and it affects every single unit holder, whether you're on the golf course or whether you're on the far end of the village. And I think the support that the community has given the people who are involved directly to help maintain the golf course, that should continue. They shouldn't have to be out there begging you. That should continue. It affects every single one of you. Look at the ads. We have a golf course. We have a tennis player. We have this. We have that. I think we're the only Century Village that doesn't have a golf course. Now, go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, I agree. I moved into an area in Royal Palm Beach. I myself was not on the golf course, but my children, after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there were really small ponds and the golf course. They would go to the golf course and fish on the golf course. So just being in the vicinity of a golf course, it's really a benefit to everybody in the community.
Jess, I have a question. Jess, over here. My name is Myron Solomon, live in Camden K. I'd like to ask you a question. I know you're not a lawyer, and neither am I. However, I've been through a lot of legal battles. I'm involved in one now in Century Village. I'm pretty up to date with law. I can't understand how this verdict was handed down from these 3 judges that were appointed without an explanation why they voted the way they did. And when they were asked why they voted the way they did with an explanation, they refused. Could you answer that?
Yeah, I think I can. I think at least the county attorney explained to me, that the zoning issue, the approval of the elected officials was different from the issue of perpetuity. That was I was made to understand. That the government had the ability to, it's within the government, so that's what they said. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, I'm repeating what I heard. That the issue of approving the zoning is one issue, which the government has the right to. But that does not affect the perpetuity issue against whoever builds on it. In other words, what my interpretation of that is that you have the right to prevent the construction on the property because it's not supposed to be used for anything else but a golf course.
So in other words,
It's a separate issue.
in other words, the judges didn't bring perpetuity into it at all.
Right.
Their decision did not affect perpetuity.
You just have the government
I
rights
see.
to zone for zoning.
So the people who are working against the building of the development
Have another different
have another case now
Have another case.
with perpetuity.
Right.
Strictly perpetuity.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Over here.
Over here.
You mentioned before about the serving of the people. Now, one of the problems with the commissioners that we vote only for our commissioner, not like used to be in the past. So why does another commissioner cares about us? So this is where the politics come into play, and I all understand in the hearing that there was a lot of money exchanged there publicly. I mean, they admitted getting a lot of money from the developer. So how we are trying, is there any way we can change the voting again so we vote for the whole 7, not just for one of ours? Is that this is the big problem?
Yes, I tried. I tried to change it myself, and I got zero support. I tried. You can demand a referendum to change. It was changed. It used to be countywide. It used to be countywide, and it was changed by vote. So you can demand another vote to change it and make it countywide. I tried to get the 6 commissioners to support me. I got zero support. None of them wanted it. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm just going to bring the mic over. Please identify yourself.
Jean Dowling, Salisbury High. First of all, the property you're talking about that is a golf course and or the swimming pool, was on the property that those people owned. This is not. This belongs to someone else. It is not Century Village property. Therefore, that would not pertain to this. Secondly, we have a county commissioner, and it seems to me that every time someone comes in the village to do something for us, it winds up being something against us. What is your interest in coming here, which is not your district, when you were commissioner? I listen to you quietly and politely. Now please let me finish.
This is a forum, pro and against is welcome. You have to show the same courtesy. We don't want to be another delegate assembly with everybody else trying to go. We want to, accordingly. Jane, go ahead.
Thank you. So my question is, why are you here? What is your interest in this piece of property and in getting involved in Century Village politics?
I'm not interested in politics at all. I represent every single resident in Palm Beach County. I go to Boca Raton. I go to Delray Beach. I went to a meeting in Palm Beach Gardens. So I am going to be more involved now than ever throughout the entire county. You can bet on me. You're not getting rid of just the term limits. It's not going to get rid of it. I represent 1.4 million residents in Palm Beach County. Every single one of them, whether I'm in office or out of office, I will remain a public servant while I'm around.
More people like Jesse Santamaria, but I know you don't. My name is Loretta Cucurullo. I live in Greenbrier Beach. I live on the 4th hole of the golf course. I have been there for 13 years. I love my golf course. I love my view. We bought and paid more money for living on a golf course. And Jess is a supporter of an underdog, which you would know nothing about because I know you're very close to Mr. Wallman.
I would like people not to attack somebody else. It's not etiquette. We have to behave better. Excuse me. We have to behave better and not let happen here what happened at the last delegate assembly.
Right on.
My name is Jeanette Veglia, and I am part of PRPC, representing the golf course. And I would just like to say that the people in Southampton, A, B, and C, the golf course is on their deed. They're on Plat 14, which is the golf course, and Plat 14 is on their deed. For anybody that wants to look, find someone that has a deed, and you will see it. And the golf course is in perpetuity, and we will have another...
Patiently. And I think we've left the time that everybody can ask their questions. But again, let's be civil. Let's be civil. At my meetings, I invite everybody to come. In my newspaper, I ask anybody, they could write their opinion, as long as it's not abusive. I've gotten only one or two. I urge you, you have the number, you want to say something, you want to write it, we'll put it in the newspaper, and I stress, we come out more than once a month.
Yes, Daddy.
Okay, the question I'm going to ask may be very obvious, but I think it's good for everyone to know. And that is,
Your name?
My name is Ruben Ramos, I live in Coventry, Jane. I want to know if it's decided that this will be a golf course again, or a park, whose responsibility is it to fund this golf course or park?
Good question.
It should be decided by both. In my opinion, it should be decided by the residents of Century Village and the government. So it should be a mutual decision. In my opinion, it should be subsidized by the government. I'm going to give you another example. When government gives away your money, I'm going to give you probably two examples. I think it's important for me to give you an example where your money has been going on. Where's it been going? Just last year, just about a year and a half ago, the vote was, it was a 6-1 vote. And guess who the one vote was? The issue was to, as some of you might know, there's such a thing called impact fees. Impact fees is somewhat similar to what I mentioned earlier about vendor fees. Impact fees are paid by developers and builders. Like every time I build a house, I set aside a few thousand dollars for impact fees to pay for roads, to pay for parks, to pay for libraries, and other schools. So that's what I did. About a year and a half ago, approximately, these same developers and builders said, help us out, the economy is bad, help us out, and we'd like to you to help cut down on our impact fees. So they asked for a exemption in impact fees. Our county administrator, Bob Weisman, recommended not to reduce the impact fees. The amount of impact fees in question was $69 million for roads, schools, libraries, parks, etc. 69 million. So I asked Mr. Weissman, before the vote, I knew the answer, but I wanted everybody to understand. It's just like similar to what's known as the vendor fees. The question I asked Mr. Weissman, our county administrator, if we give these impact fees back to the developers and builders so they don't have to pay it, if we give it to them, when we need to build the roads, the schools, the libraries, and the parks, and the money is not there, where are we going to get it? His answer was very simple. Tax the people. Yeah. So it was very clear, that the 6 commissioners had no problem at all to take your tax money and give it to the developers and builders. $69 million. $69 million. See, that was not publicized enough. I bet you didn't even know about it. This is within the last 2 years. So, the answer to your question, the golf course. Back to the golf course. They should help you. They should help you. The problem is, we want a property owner who wants to make a profit on it, and a big profit. It should be, that golf course should be sold for the market value. Whatever the market value is, it should be appraised and the market value, and that's what that property owner should be paid. They should be paid, and that should then be converted to, if not a golf course, a park with government assistance. The way they gave away your $69 million just a year and a half ago.
I'd like to just add that there's no free lunches. Many of you know that when this village was built, it was built with a golf course. I understand before my time that for a nominal fee, the then developer, Mr. Levy, was willing to sell all the amenities, including this clubhouse, which we now pay a tremendous rent for, and which at the time, and you look back, what we, excuse me, at the time was valued at X. It's probably 5 times the value today. So you can't expect a giveaway. And one other comment, last year, the county, on a dying sport that no one plays, spent $16 million to improve county golf courses. Why should we be a stepchild?
This man has been in, this gentleman's first, you are next.
He's been waiting.
Excuse me, we are all here, everybody will have its turn.
I'm very patient.
Thank you. You're next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, you're next.
Okay.
This gentleman has been standing, he looks very tired.
Hi, I want to agree. I'm Marvin Corp. I live over in Greenbrier A, and I want to add to what the previous gentleman said about all of Century Village is affected by this golf course. I'm sure there were people that bought in the Century Village that had that bought because of the golf course, but didn't want to live so close to it. Why? Because the golf course gives your area class. It's open space, and it means less traffic, less congestion, a much better living environment. So all of us are involved with it, not just those who live by the golf course.
Good morning. My name is Joseph and Sarah. My in-laws bought here in 1969. I'm familiar with this community. We decided recently to move here. And we're owners, and we love it. I have a background that is in real estate, following steel erection in New York City. I was introduced very early in my life, I would say 55 years ago, to politics. I was tooled properly. You have to learn about what's being offered and learn about the candidate running. That being what it is, in this room here, I would say We're all honest. We were taught by our parents, our school teachers, clergy, that honesty is the best policy. Unfortunately, voting has gotten down to about 25%. People don't believe in the system anymore. We have a right to protect our interests, whether it's through appointed officials, elected officials, or otherwise, and speak our mind. We also have an obligation to ourselves that when we buy in a community like this, and you get that wonderful package to read, that from the day you come here to whatever time that you can shut that useless TV off, in these times, read it and find out what you're up against or what works for you, and then understand the rules, what they are, so that when you come to a meeting like this, you're not completely blindsided by what is obvious in the paperwork and what you don't know about, or learn from someone else. There's one other very important word that you have to be concerned about, and I'm sure he'll tell you. It's called eminent domain. Nothing that is this strong can be totally isolated from eminent domain. So if that area becomes something that would be subject to eminent domain, you would have no control over what may be built there. It could be a school, it could be a shopping center, it could be something that half of us might like and the other half don't like. But it'll be thrust upon you without you having the right to really vote it down. It's not easy to be in a community this large. I'm in the 55 and older community in New Jersey, and there are always people who are opposed to this and want that and want this. And of course, there's always a lot of people that were told by a friend or a neighbor what is right and what is wrong. When you come to meetings like this, you have to applaud yourself. But you also have to allow yourself to get fully involved, to know everything and every argument, every issue, and how it affects not just you, but the whole community, because you're part of this whole community, whether you're on the east side, west side, north, or east. And it's a tough job. What I want to just end this conversation with and find out the reason why the average person is subject to particular arrest problems and jail problems. You know, because $58,000 a year for a prisoner in jail. Why aren't elected and appointed officials giving tougher sentences than the average person so that they can spend more time behind? These are things we all have to worry about as well.
I appreciate it, but basically, Jess is here to answer your questions. And I applaud anybody who says it, but you have to do it. And so, not to belabor points, if there's any question that you want answered, excuse me, Olga's next, of either gentleman here, now's the time. I see some lady I may know at the other end, who I'm sure nobody knows, who will have to
Olga Walkenstein, Northampton R. This gentleman brought up a very, very interesting point about eminent domain. There may, or there could be a possibility that this case could be lost on the basis of eminent domain. The government, the federal government, could come in at any time and say, hey, we don't know what you guys are doing, you're fighting, it's insane, we're taking over the property. In that case, we don't have a leg to stand on. Now, the question is, and I will ask Jess, do you think it's possible that some kind of a compromise could be gotten between Mr. Waldman and the residents of Century Village? For example, a 9-hole real golf course and a certain amount of buildings. No. That's a question. Do you think that's a possibility? If we are at risk, I'm only saying that if we are at risk of the federal government coming in and perpetuating eminent domain.
Yeah, I have two answers to your question. I have to add, the eminent domain issue is a good thing to bring up, but I think the explanation that you've heard so far is incomplete. And let me try and attempt to add a little more information on eminent domain. And I only speak if I have experience. If I don't have experience, I know how to keep my mouth shut. There are certain things that I keep my mouth shut, especially with my wife. Eminent domain, I have had eminent domain. So I know. I have property on Southern Boulevard. I have commercial property on Southern Boulevard. Southern Boulevard used to be 2 lanes. 1 lane going west and 1 lane going east. It's now 8 lanes. Now 8 lanes. So I lost quite a bit of property, and eminent domain was declared. But eminent domain, if you look at the definition of when a government cannot just take over property and just give you what they want to give you. No. An eminent domain is declared, number 1, it must be for public good. That's what I think you both forgot. They have to prove to you, the people, we the people, that it is for public. They have to prove it. They cannot just say it. Anybody can contest, how is it for public good? So that's the first thing. It has to be for public good. Afterwards, they then will ask you, they ask me, what do you think it's worth? And I can hire at the government's expense. I can hire a lawyer, an accountant, surveyors, engineers. I did hire a battery of consultants to advise me the highest and best value of the property, to get the highest realistic price for my property. They paid for all my legal fees, my accounting fees, my appraisal fees, my engineering fees, etc., etc., etc. So it costs a lot of money for the government to pay for all of those services and then arrive at a reasonable price for them. So not only do they have to pay you a fair price for your property, they have to pay for all of your expenses to hire the best consultant. And it doesn't matter if you hire a lawyer for $500 or $600 an hour. They'll pay $500, whatever it costs to hire the best lawyer in New York or the best lawyer in Miami. They have to pay for it. So those are the things that you have to know. You will be well protected if, in fact, there is eminent domain.
Excuse me.
And the final question is, if you all agree to have a small golf course, a smaller golf course, and allow them to build, you have to agree that it could happen.
I just want to make an observation. I look around the room. This meeting has been very well attended. I look at all the faces. I see no one here, although everyone I'm going to talk about has taken the time to come and listen. And by that meaning, I don't see any officer. Is there an officer from UCO here? Stand up.
Former.
Who?
Former.
Norma?
Former.
Forget former. In office today. How can they understand what we are looking at when they don't themselves come? I saw one member of the executive board who I know, and George comes to every meeting. It's a total disservice to the village that people you're putting your faith in have turned a deaf ear and have played, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. You have to make it known that you're not being represented. They are willing and able to talk here, yet they don't come. Excuse me, this is not the only meeting. Every meeting I open the door. We had one person who was very vocal, who was not in agreement, and I applauded her in an article. You must stand up, and I want to tell you, one of the people that's most active in this area lives almost as far from the golf course as living in Chicago, and you know who it is.
There are executive board members here.
Can you stand up? That's good. At least we have somebody.
I'd like to make a comment, please. There happened to be a bid committee meeting this morning, and therefore Barbara Cornish, who is the vice president, would not be able to attend.
I hear you, Betty, but I got to tell you, in the past, I've invited Barbara to every single meeting before, and she showed up to one. I'm making a statement. You don't have, and you know what? So there's a committee meeting. What are you going to meet about on a bid committee that is irrelevant?
I have a question.
I'd like to get questions of Mr. Santamaria.
Question for Mr. Santamaria.
Okay, Jess, I want to ask you this question. You know we're going back to court.
Stand up.
How is this going to be different this time?
What's your name?
Sandy Palm, Southampton Bay. How is this going to be different this time? Corruption County still exists.
They won't be the ones deciding this time. This time it's going to be decided by a different judge, and the evidence is going to be different. It's going to be a completely different case. It's a different case, and government is not going to be involved, and it's going to be directed at the developer. It's a completely different lawsuit.
You mean perpetuity?
Yes.
Not directed at the developer yet.
Right. Right.
Where's the microphone?
Microphone?
Yeah.
Here's the mic.
Shh. I see him. And he looks very handsome. Oh, you're next. You're next. I promise. I know it's normally ladies first. You're standing, but he's older. He's just sitting. Stand up and identify.
Good morning. My name is Murray Roeder. I'm the Golf State of B1. My question is for Mr. Carey. Mr. Carey, in your office, is there anything taking place in your office?
Yeah, my office in the golf course, no, there is not. There's not been any allegations that is brought to us. Again, and that's a very good question. Thank you for answering, because a lot of these issues about developers with both the city and the county are often, they're decided in court. The IG, when there's been a lot of court cases, so there's been many court cases in Florida on these type of issues. And so the difference, the IG, we bring about when there is an allegation of wrongdoing against a clear standard.